NBA Summer League. The Summer League's been going on for about a week now, and maybe a little more. And I watched a few of the Celtics games. I didn't get to watch the Lakers-Celtics game last night, which is the one game that they won. I did get to see the other two that they have played. And I wanted to just give my take on the team, on how they've been doing, what I've seen, what I'd like to see moving forward. I don't think they have any other games because they're 1-2, so they're not moving on. I think only the top 4 teams move on to in Summer League playoffs. So I'm not sure if they're going to play anymore after last night. So Summer League might be over for the Celtics anyway. But I did want to, again, talk about a little bit of the things that I've seen and some things that I would have liked to see, or if there are more games that I'm not aware of that I would like to see down the road in the Summer League. I would have really liked to see Jan Madar or Johan Begarin, 2 guys that were drafted a couple years ago that are drafting stash players in the Summer League. I would have really liked to see one or both of those guys in the Summer League this year. I'm a big fan of Jan Madar. I think that he could be a really good bench point guard for the Celtics. Like he's a guy that's not going to turn the ball over a whole lot. He's a guy that is a much better playmaker than he is a shooter or scorer. Now, obviously, we want shooters and scorers too, and guys that can do that, but I think the Celtics, what they need off the bench is a guy that's just going to run the offense. A guy that's reliable, it's not going to turn the ball over, that's going to play some defense, that's going to, I keep saying it, but not turn the ball over and just be a pure playmaking point guard, and that's what Jan Madar is. So I would have liked to see him. And Johan Begarin, or Begarin, I don't know how it's pronounced, to be honest with you. I've heard it all different ways. So one of you guys know, let me know in the comment section. I'd be happy to hear it. So he's not a point guard necessarily, but I think that he's a guy that could be an athletic wing/guard combo guy off the bench that could play some solid defense and just give some athleticism in transition. He would be a guy that wouldn't really play a whole lot, but I think this offseason, the Celtics really, really kind of wanted to get front court depth and really have that, talk about that big-headed, 3-headed monster at the front court with Al Horford, Rob Williams, and Kristaps Porzingis. I think that was a huge goal for them, was to kind of spread out the front court depth instead of having a billion guards and Peyton Pritchard, who is a perfectly good player that can really light it up on offense and drop 20 like that, sitting on your bench and having DNPs for 3/4 of the season. I mean, that's, whereas, your front court depth, you're basically playing just Al and Rob for the entirety of the playoffs, with Grant Williams coming in sparingly and playing a little bit. You had Mike Muscala that never played in the playoffs. Blake Griffin never played, other than maybe some crunch time. Last 2 minutes of a blowout or something like that. Luke Cornett. You had all these guys in your front court that just sat there and didn't do anything all season, and or not all season, but all playoffs. Excuse me. So I think that was a big goal. So in turn, I think the guards and the forwards are a little bit less deep than what you otherwise would have, especially considering you traded Danilo Gallinari, so he's not going to be a part of your team. And you traded away Grant Williams in a sign and trade to Dallas. So he's a forward/big. But I think that, Jordan Walsh will play a huge role, and I'll talk about him in a minute this year. But I think Begarin could have been a guy that, maybe filled out that roster, maybe got one of those last guard/forward spots that's really at the end of the bench, 14th or 15th guy at the end of the bench. And you know what? He may very well be. He may have just not played in Summer League. I don't know how it's going to go this year, but that would have been something that I would have liked to see. I would have liked to see at least one of those guys play in Summer League. But unfortunately, neither of them did. They had commitments to their teams overseas, one for France and one for, I think, Israel. I can't remember where Jan Madar is, but either way, some things that I did see for the team that did go out there. Jay Scrubb is an interesting player. I think that he's really, really inconsistent, and I think that's probably why he's not a consistent NBA player. I think that that's why he's probably been in the G League for so long. because he is just so inconsistent. I mean, there's times where he's an absolute microwave and he can get you 10 points in a matter of 2 or 3 or 4 possessions in a row, and then just kind of throw up bad shots and miss wildly, turn the ball over. But he is an interesting player, and I would not mind seeing him be kind of what I thought Johan Begarin might be. Just a guard / forward right at the end of the bench, that can come off the bench and be a spark plug for you and get you some instant offense a little bit, even if you sacrifice a little bit at the defensive end for that. So I like him a lot. J.D. Davison, excuse me. I don't know why I keep saying Davidson when I say his name, but he was a second-round pick last year. I like him a lot. I think that he is. I think he's a guy that if he can learn to handle NBA pressure, and I don't mean pressure in like the metaphorical sense. I mean like pressure as in physical defensive pressure from double teams and from guys that are going to be guarding him that are going to be bigger than him, and not turn the ball over, because I saw a lot in the first 2 games where teams would double towards the beginning of games, especially during that Miami Heat game. There was a lot of double teams on him at the beginning, and he would turn the ball over a lot. If he can learn to handle that kind of defensive pressure, I think he could be a guy that comes off the bench and runs an offense, and is not a guy that's going to get you a whole lot of points. But I think at least 2 out of the 3 games, he had a double-double. So he had over 10 assists in these NBA Summer League games, which, again, Summer League is much different than actual NBA basketball. But still, the point is that he shows these skills where he can be a playmaker. And so I wouldn't mind seeing him maybe get a little bit of an expanded run and kind of take that Peyton Pritchard spot this year where, Pritchard last year was at the very end of the bench and never played. And J.D. Davison was a guy that played a little bit last year too in very, very crunch time situations where it was like a minute left and they were down by 12 or up by 20 or whatever. But I think J.D. Davison could be a guy that gives you 8 solid minutes, 10 solid minutes off the bench, and not turn the ball over, run your offense a little bit, spell the other guys. I wouldn't mind seeing that. Now, the guy that I mentioned earlier, Jordan Walsh, is a guy that I was very, very impressed with. Now, obviously, watching him at Arkansas, he was a guy that did not have any offensive game to him really whatsoever. He was more of a slasher, a guy that could score in transition, and he was a defensive anchor. I mean, that was his job and his role at Arkansas. So I never got to really see him show off his offensive talent, and I was very concerned about his shot. I thought his form was okay. But one thing that people don't really kind of factor in sometimes is that there's a fly flying around me here, guys. Get away from me, my gosh. So one thing that a lot of people don't really factor in is that the NBA three-point line is farther back than the college three-point line. So it is one of those things where really, if a guy's not a great shooter in college, it's going to be really hard for them to develop that shot in the NBA, because if you are having a hard time making basically what amounts to a mid-range shot in the NBA, or a long mid-range shot in the NBA, then you're going to have a hard time shooting threes consistently too. But Jordan Walsh, while his shot is a little bit inconsistent, I mean, I see the tools for him to be a great 3-and-D guy for the Celtics, not just this year, but in years to come. I think he needs to put on a little bit of weight. He's a little bit skinny, and so at his position, he's going to play the 3 and the 4 most of the time. He's going to get bullied by bigger 3s and 4s. I mean, I can just imagine him going up against Michael Porter Jr. or somebody like that who's 6'10", 240 pounds, or Giannis, who's just an absolute freak, and just getting absolutely annihilated just because he can't physically stand up to them. Now, putting him up against smaller guards, like a two-way, like a 2-guard or a 1, having him switch onto those guys, I can see that being unbelievably successful right now, right away, and into the future. And I think that if he continues to develop his shot, which has been so much better, again, than I thought it would be just watching him at Arkansas, I think that he could be a guy that comes off the bench, shoots threes, plays great defense, and is switchable, and basically becomes your next Grant Williams. Now, obviously, Grant is more of a big, and Jordan Walsh is clearly more of a 3, whereas Grant Williams is clearly more of a 4/5 defensively. But I still think that role could be Jordan Walsh's to lose at this point. I would be floored if he did not make the final roster. I really would. And I think that if he doesn't make the final roster and they try to send him to the G League, I wouldn't be surprised if he signs elsewhere. I really wouldn't. Because I think he's talented enough to help out a team right now. So I think the Celtics would be crazy not to keep him. They drafted him for a reason. I think that he's a guy that's going to be that, fourth wing off the bench. You got Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, Sam Hauser, and I think Jordan Walsh is going to be right behind Sam Hauser this year. If not even ahead of Sam Hauser, which is crazy considering Sam Hauser shot like 49% from three last year, and I think he's only going to get better with another offseason of being healthy and of knowing what his role could be and getting better at some things that he wasn't great at last year, like attacking the rim or defensively, right? So we'll see what happens, but I like Jordan Walsh a lot, and I think that he will be very good for the Celtics, not just this year, but hopefully into the future.
Hey guys, me again. Thank you so much for watching one of my clips from the Lopes Goes Last podcast. These clips are so much fun to do. I absolutely love making them, and I absolutely love doing them. And this podcast is my baby, so I really want this thing to grow, and I really want it to succeed. So if you did like what you see, please subscribe. Also hit that bell notification so you never miss any one of my episodes or one of my clips like this one. And please do also like and share these videos with your friends and your family so that we can make this thing grow as fast as possible. And I wanted to thank you again so much. And I hope you guys enjoyed the video and have a great rest of your day.